Welcome to Confessions of an SEO. This is your host, Carolyn Holzman. If you're new to the series, welcome to the most non-SEO podcast out there. I have been calling this Love Letters to the SEO Industries and the businesses they serve, which I think is still true, but I love the way a friend of mine started describing it, Ted Kubitis, as Radio Lab, but for SEO. And I like it too. And I definitely see the why he might think that, because I think it's definitely taking stories, in this case SEO stories, and SEO science, and putting them together, kind of like chocolate and peanut butter. So if you're looking for shiny, new, crazy SEO tactics, gotta be honest with you, if there's any in here, it is completely by accident. Mostly what you're going to hear or what you should expect is more the people side of SEO. My intention is to put a human face on our misunderstood and often maligned industry. Expect to hear very honest observations. This is agnostic information concerning SEO from someone who's been there on both sides. A brick and mortar business owner for many years, just trying to get business, and a reformed client SEO, 12 years so far, now seriously seeking SEO researcher and tester. I deeply believe that the farmer and the cowboy should be friends. And yes, that's a reference to the Oklahoma song, the musical. And there is mutual revenue opportunity to be made when we as SEOs and we as business owners better understand each other. So if you're an SEO or a business owner or an executive out there working with an SEO marketing group, this is for you. Today, I want to talk about voice SEO. It is so messed up. And I think this episode might just be a few minutes longer than usual, so it might be around 15 minutes, so I hope you don't mind. Back in episode 19, V is for volatile. And I realized, before I go there, I might want to explain a little bit about what goes into the naming of these episodes. First off, kudos to those of you who are picking up on my references to movies and musicals and pop culture from 20 years ago. Yes, despite all appearances, there is some effort that's going into naming episodes. The V is for volatile, for those of you who don't know, is an homage to Sue Grafton. She wrote detective novels. She made a glossary of all the crime-related words. I'm going to call them keywords, one for each letter of the alphabet. Anything related to crime or murder. A is for alibi, B is for burglar, and so on. And editors call them alphabet novels. It's a great way, it's kind of a organizing principle. But what was really cool and what I thought was very funny, the basis of her writing that series was that she was going through a really bad divorce at the time, and it was, I think, multiple years, and there was a custody battle in there. And as she was going through it, she was imagining ways to kill or maim her ex-husband. And her fantasies were so vivid, she decided to write them down. Isn't it amazing where art comes from? Okay, so anyway, going back to the mess in voice SEO. So in that episode, V is for volatile, I talk about how Google stays silent when they're having problems, and when they do say something, it's often confusing. And instead of waiting for Google to explain what is going on, I'm on the same bandwagon as we should use our authority based on our experience as SEOs to take the lead. Because if we wait for Google to figure things out, especially when it comes to voice SEO, if we're waiting for someone at at Google to issue a press release to let us know how we can use voice either as a convenience or an innovative discovery piece of marketing, we're going to be waiting a long time. I had no idea when I started to develop this course on voice SEO that it would have been such a mess. I'll be honest with you. And it's no wonder that there is jack all out there that I would consider really useful information about it. There's all these kind of like novelty things, but nothing that we can really sort of sink our teeth into and start figuring out. And so what's there is disjunct and it's just flopped out, and there's no real sense of what we can actually do with it or how we can make money with it. And we mustn't forget that Google is in competition with Apple. So when Apple does something, Google wants to kind of one-up them. So there could be some of that in here too, which is also adding to the confusion. So if you're an SEO or business executive and you're confused about voice SEO, you have every right to be so. You're not late, unless your product is supposed to talk. But for the average company that just wants to be found everywhere, including these little smart speakers, it's okay to lay off the beatings for now. But what it means is we all have an opportunity to make calm choices. And that's what I found so far. So for instance, just using the term voice SEO, what are we talking about? Because you can use your voice to, instead of, typing your search out, you can hit that little microphone in the search bar and say what you want to do it. And it sits in a lot of devices as well. Are we meaning that we optimize our content so that Google and Amazon smart speakers can voice our answer to a question somebody has asked? Or is it a really cool accessibility feature on a website for the web visitors who can't either read easily or at all, but they can hear? Now, I started this course processing it as a way to gather up the details and come down from the mountain with tablets. And now I'm looking at this and I'm thinking that it's not going to be yay. It's not going to be one of those moments of divine illumination. I think we're really going to have to work for it. So I'm approaching the course now with the same energy as the first person who goes up to the buffet because people are standing around waiting for someone to start. The term screenless SEO to me is more helpful. It's more precise to describe what I think the mountain is that I'm climbing. And even then, there's speakers that have screens. So, you have to be a little flexible when we start thinking about it, but aim for precision. We're used to developing content in a sales path and a discovery path that is either for Google or email marketing, and all these touch points that we can use to increase not only our odds of discovery by consumers who don't know who we are, but easily and repeatedly be there so they trust us. So people who need what we have but don't know us by name because they're searching for their problem will slowly start to see us more often. Now, I hate to say this, but right now, for voice opportunities, we might need to develop a heretofore unknown strategy for multiple access points when it comes to voice. And like I mentioned before, episode 25 was, I think I gave an update on just voice SEO and where I was on that. It's like there's a river of screenless SEO. So hang with me. I'm trying to be precise as I describe this. And over this river, we're expecting that someone has come before us and built a bridge. It's just a matter of us discovering what it is. And I've hinted at it a little bit before, but it really couldn't be further from the truth. On both sides of the river, while there is some fledgling construction, there's a huge gap over the river. And for instance, how do we generate an ROI on voice? I mean, this is typically what we're looking at, is that, we're trying to solve a problem, right, when we have a different way to interact. So, like the people at the buffet waiting for someone else to start so that they don't look too hungry or pushy, what else do we have going for us? There are departments at Google and Amazon trying to figure out the chicken and the egg, which comes first. Them creating some voice Google, which in effect invites a buying public to go screenless? Or are we as the public, do we get to a point where we demand the ability to walk around like we're talking to the ship's computer on the Starship Enterprise? Which, funny enough, is kind of what Google themselves said first. Back in 2013, I found a Slate article. I'll put the URL in the description for the episode. But the title of the article was basically, Google has a single towering obsession. It wants to build the Star Trek computer. Now, the author of the article, I hope I don't mangle his name, Farhad Manjoo, was talking with various members of Google's development team, and at one point he asked Tamar Yehoshua, Director of Product Management at Google's search team at the time. And the question was, is there a roadmap for how search will look a few years from now? And she responded, quote, "Our vision is the Star Trek computer. You can talk to it, it understands you, and it can have a conversation with you," unquote. Now, I should note, she is now the Chief Product Officer at Slack. So while I started this out saying voice is a hot mess, I don't want to leave it there. I did find some promising things, and I'd like to share those. On the bright side, for one, I have found a way to inject at least business information into these voice directories, these voice assistant directories. And I'm going first as my own guinea pig. It's not a free method by any means, but I think that's where trust factor comes into play. There's a common interpretation about business listing, the paid ones that are oftentimes more trusted because they're far less likely to be spam. Now, paid listings are what a real business would do. You'd expect that action the same way as you'd expect that if someone's trying to spam Google, they aren't going to raise their hand and pass over a credit card. For those non-SEO regular people who tell me they're listening, this word spam that I'm referring to, it's not food in a can. It's the SEO's term for content which is contained within the search engine results on Google, mostly, that is created solely to improve to improve the search rankings, where they appear in search for something that they make revenue for without any value to you, the user. And because of that type of activity, there's a lot of things that are set up to not let that information in. So the prevailing prejudice is that if you're paying, you must be for real. So for the SEOs who remember a while back, it's a bit more old school on this voice. Like in the early days of SEO, information had to be fed every month into directories, and for that information to gain traction in those, it had to be consistent over time, more than one data point to validate that trust. And then the business, that trust of repeatedly the same thing happening every month, was parlayed into making it easier to get mentioned in results, sort of like a digital backstage pass. Now, I am going to offer the voice directory submissions as a service. And from what I can tell right now, getting into these directories is going to be the foundation to a screenless SEO strategy. It's probably a solid strategy even if voice peters out, because the moments where voice is prominent are those moments when it's more convenient for people to speak what they need. And whatever device they use, it will most likely be connected to one of these directories. And like the lottery, you can't win if you don't play. And I know I want to be there. It's kind of annoying that it has to be paid, but I believe we're at the beginning of what could be a huge shift in how consumers buy. I'm not saying it's tomorrow, but there's enough signs that make me think now is the time to pay attention to it. We've got time to adjust. And it's reminiscent of how things were before we bought anything online. For those who may not remember, for a lot of us of a certain age, putting our credit cards on a website to buy something used to be incredibly stressful because there was the trust that had to be earned. But But the average consumer at the time, no. They'd rather call the company up and give them their card over the phone. Then I learned these stats. Basically, according to Google, most people who use the smart speakers, 52% of them keep them in a common room, like a living room. And while 25% keep them in their bedroom and 22% in their kitchen. But the thing to mean is that it's in the environment. It's in the home environment and often in the business environment. Adobe Analytics did a survey, and they found they wanted to find out what were the most common searches on smart speakers. Number one, 70% was asking for music. 64% was asking about weather forecasts. 53% are asking fun questions. Yes, I know. We all do that. But here's where the number 4 was. 47% are doing online search. They were doing online search more than asking for news or directions. So people are already using voice searches for online search. And there's some of us out there who remember a time when nobody knew about search engines. And in my opinion, SEOs are what made Google. SEOs literally were Google evangelists, going out there and explaining how wide open things were for search, for putting ads to your business out there. And Google was very generous in if you had some kind of an affiliate site, and they were more willing to share some of that revenue with SEOs. Now I see where we are right now with this voice SEO is another opportunity, another inflection point for SEOs. And if you're an SEO who's not just looking for an easy button, and there's a lot we don't know, but what we do know is that somebody has to pick up a plate and start walking down the buffet. So why can't it be us? Why can't it be us as SEOs? So watch this space. I'll have more to share moving forward, and I'll try and make these updates a little regular. Well, this brings us to the end of this Vermont-infused episode. Thank you for listening. Appreciate receiving your questions and comments which you can send to confessions@AmericanWayMedia.com. I've talked a lot about episode 22, which is my particular and jaded, yes, I'll admit, view on the Core Web Vitals release. And if you are looking for a fun episode, try some of the early ones when I really didn't know what I was talking about. I'm asking for your help to get the word out to other SEOs or business owners about this podcast. Please let your friends know about Confessions. We all stand to make more business and success for each other, with each other, when we both, the SEOs and the business owners, understand each other better. This is your host, Carolyn Holzman. Thank you for your time, and I'll see you in the service.